Well, good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's exciting to be here. Temperatures unseasonably warm, nice, sunny. All right, the topic today, New Year, New You, New Resolutions, and also a sneak peek of what's coming up for you on My Diabetes Home or Iowa Diabetes Portal. All right, we'll get started. As Casey said, let's keep it conversational. If you have questions, if you have things to say, please ask or mention. All right, we will get started. So new year, and I congratulate you, those who have joined today. You've renewed your commitment to diabetes by tuning in today. Thank you for doing that. You are on the right track, and with more help, this can be the year, your most successful ever, 2019, to defy diabetes. And we'll talk a whole lot today about making goals and keeping and achieving your goals. That's really the whole plan for this webinar today. All right, first question of the day here. According to Forbes, half of all Americans make New Year resolutions. So many of you would have made them as well. Do you know what percentage of resolutions are actually achieved every year? Please take a poll. All right. Well, the answer is 8%. So I think you guys were in the right place. So how come if 100 resolutions are made, only 92 of them only 8 of them get achieved, 92 don't? We all mean to do it. We want to do it. So how come this doesn't happen? And I have made New Year resolutions and other resolutions in the past, and I have given up as well. So let's look today at how can we maximize the chances of achieving our goals this year. So the things I will talk about today, developing smarter goals. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about numbers, and numbers are easy to make goals for. So we'll talk about the key numbers in diabetes. What are the ABCs of diabetes? And then we'll talk about this new cool thing called DISCO. And then finally, seeing how My Diabetes Home can help. So let's talk about making goals, smarter goals. First, you really want to be specific. So one thing I want to do is, as you see these and as you consider the resolutions you have made or you are going to make, think about, do they have these attributes? Are they specific and well-defined as to what do you want to achieve? Are they measurable? Will you be able to measure them? Are they realistic or attainable? Are they relevant to you and your diabetes? Will they truly make a difference? Because if they aren't, you're going to stop tracking them. So they should be relevant to your health. What's the timeline? How long will it take to achieve the goal? And then the smarter part is you evaluate. Once you start your goal, the SMART goal, then you want to evaluate and readjust. So that's the paradigm I think will work very well in terms of setting up smarter goals. This is a spreadsheet we got from AADE, and you can use, again, the same idea. As you think of your goals, please write your draft goal at the top, but then answer at the time you're developing that goal, say, is it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and what's the timeline? So definitely use a sheet like this. If you want, we can send you a link to this after the webinar. Casey, do we have a question?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. All right. So how can we make this goal smarter? What I suggest to you at this point is submit the goals you are thinking about this year in the chat window. And then we'll walk through and see how we can help make those more likely to be achieved. If you make these goals, we better achieve them instead of 8% of people achieving their goals. How about 40, 50, more than half of people achieving their goals? So what goals are you considering? Go ahead and type them in.
Bob wants to lose some weight.
All right. So Bob, you and I have the same resolution. All right, we are in the same boat. Maybe we'll have a competition going on. So now let's look at it and say, I want to lose weight. And I've been trying to lose weight for the last several years, but anytime I lose weight, it finds me again. So it's one of the most challenging goals. So if I had to think about that goal, here's what I would do, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So I need to lose another 7 pounds to reach my ideal goal. not ideal, but the target that I'm shooting for. So 7 pounds, that's specific, that's measurable. Attainable, I'm not sure. 7 pounds, it depends on the time. Relevant, it is relevant to my health, and it will prevent the risk of diabetes and heart disease and so forth. And I evaluate it every morning. I go on the scale and then write it on the calendar. Whenever I'm measuring it, I change my behavior. Yesterday was not so good, so I realized last night that I need to do better, and so today's behavior was better. So the idea would be you would write that goal, but then what I would urge you to say, be specific in terms of number of pounds over how long. My goal is about 7 pounds in 6 months. That's what I'm hoping for. All right, there's another question. Go ahead.
Another goal someone has is to manage glucose levels in the desired levels. So manage their blood sugar better.
So to manage glucose in the desired level, so if we want to look at that one, we say you probably want your sugars more in the target range. That's what we define it. So depending on whether you are using glucose meter or you're using a sensor, in sensors, they give the time in range. So you can say, hey, my time in range today is 60%, and I want to make it 70% by the end of 6 months. That would be a way to do that. If you are measuring on a meter, it's harder, but if you're using My Diabetes Home, then it's much easier. It gives you the time in range automatically on the graphs, and then you can do the same thing you do with CGMs. Hey, today my target, my sugars in range are 60%, I want to go to 70% by a certain time. And this one, once you set it up, you will have to then say, okay, whenever I go out of range, what are the reasons? And you will have to start evaluating those reasons and taking action against those reasons. Good goals, I think very relevant goals. Both of them are very relevant. So thank you for that information. So some of the examples of these smarter goals, I'll eat a lunch containing 60 grams of carbs for the next 3 weeks. So that's a very specific, timely, probably realistic, relevant goal. I'll increase my activity by walking for 30 minutes, 3 days per week for 3 weeks. You'll see this 3 weeks. There is a reason why it says 3 weeks. Or I'll add a serving of veggies to my evening meal each day for a month. So all of these, in my mind, are those smarter goals, and they're time bound. I like that. It takes about 3 weeks to ingrain a habit into our functioning, for it to a new activity to become a habit. That's why I urge you to make goals for 3 or 4 weeks, and then evaluate after that. Again, if you have any comments, feel free to add. All right, so for diabetes goals, I would say write your goals down. If you have a long-term goal, you want to lose 20 pounds, think about a year and a half, whatever that time is, and then break that goal into smaller steps. So last year when I was trying to lose 10 pounds, I did break it up into, on my calendar, I have a monthly calendar next to my weighing machine. So I actually broke it into smaller steps. At the end of each month, I said this number, then that number. Of course, most of the months I did not meet my number, but overall I did meet my goal to about a 60-70% range. So breaking those long-term goals into smaller goals is important. Always plan to follow up. I know the years I don't measure my weight, I do worse. So just the idea that I'm tracking makes things better. I do a lot of research, and they say that's the Hawthorne effect. Whatever you measure gets better. Also, share your goals. I've been very candid. I'm sharing my goal today. I want to lose 7 pounds this year. And so I'm just sharing. So that brings in some accountability. What if I could work as part of a team? So here today we had our wellness launch at our office, and we are taking part in Healthy Iowa competition, and we are setting some goals as a group, right? So social pressure, social support is very important too. And remember, whatever goals you set, you will not succeed right away. It will take some work. It will take time to make or break a habit. All right, some tips from our friends at Jocelyn Diabetes, some of the things you may want to consider this year. That's coming directly from them. See your diabetes doctor. 2 to 4 times a year. And that depends on your control. If you are well controlled, A1C less than 7 for last 2 times, maybe 2 times is good enough. If your control is worse than that, 3, 4, sometimes I see people 6 times in a year. Create a meal plan. Sit down with a diabetes educator or a dietitian, create a meal plan. Have an annual eye exam, very important to prevent complications. See your dentist twice each year. And hopefully all of you got your flu shots already. All right. One area that I'm very passionate about is numbers themselves. Diabetes is a 24/7 disease full of numbers, lots of numbers. If you can master your numbers, you'll do very, very, very well with your diabetes. And you will avoid these long-term complications, eye disease, kidney disease, nerve damage, dialysis, all of that. So keep the numbers down. A1C, blood pressure, cholesterol. These are the 3 ABCs of diabetes. My Diabetes Home, you can track all of them. You can download it from your doctor's office. You can manually enter. There's so many ways to get your numbers there. Once you have them in, we will translate into one single score, which is called diabetes score, or disco in short. I like dancing, so I love the idea of having a disco. It's fun. You can track your numbers very easily on My Diabetes Home. And remember, whatever you track is what gets improved. These are the most important numbers. These correlate with your risk for complications, the heart disease, kidney disease, nerve damage, all of those. So make sure to track your ABCs this year very, very well. And we can help you do that. Question for you folks. What do you think in the United States when they looked at the percentage of people reaching their target for all 3 of them? What happened? What percentage of people are meeting that target? Please take a poll.
So the lead is 20 right now.
Well, let's find out the answer. This is what we have done as a nation. When we look at an A1C, A less than 7, B less than 130/80, which is the older goal, and LDL, cholesterol less than 100, only 20% of people were meeting that goal, 1 in 5. Surprising. We have 8 new classes of medication just in diabetes, lots of new advancements. How come only 1 in 5 people is reaching that goal? None of you want to be in that 80%. All of you should be in that 20%. So here's a resolution for you to consider. Get your ABCs right this year. What are the right ABCs? A1C is a measurement of how much sugar is attached to hemoglobin in your red blood cells. The goal is less than 7%. It's checked every 3 to 6 months. One thing I would say is definitely make sure to measure. First, that's the first step. And then the second step is to improve it. Whatever gets measured and tracked does improve. You can track your A1C on My Diabetes Home. And this is showing you readings for a patient over the last year. Some of the key things that I want to point out, there's a lot of education built in My Diabetes Home also. Whenever you see an I sign, it will show you some education. What is an A1C? What should be the goals? That's a link. There's a video. There are some other information. So we're trying to put education which is very relevant for you. You can also see what your targets should be, and then color coding. If you're above 8 or below 5, we do it a red. 6 to 5, we say between 5 and 6, yellow, and 6 to 8, green. So around 7 plus minus 1 is the green. And you're able to then see it. Are you doing well or are you not doing well? You can also change the timeline here, and you can look at 5 years. I have many, many patients now who have 5 years of data. It's just beautiful to look at that stuff. And people who do that will do better than people who don't. Moving to B, the blood pressure. ADA recommends less than 140/90. I personally feel that's a little too high. Past goals used to be 130/80. Somebody is quite healthy, young, without complications, I shoot for 130/80. Otherwise, 140/90. When you reduce your blood pressure, you seriously reduce your risk for major issues like stroke. Nobody wants to have a stroke. That's the most dreaded complication in my mind. One of my friends, I just got a WhatsApp message from India. One of my endocrinologist friend, his brother today got a significant brain bleed with half of his body not moving. We do not want to have a stroke. That's one of the most scary complications of diabetes. 32% reduction in death and the eye, kidney, and nerve damage. So definitely you want to control your blood pressure. If you, I use Omron for my dad, and his data comes to me directly from India. We also can hook up, if you use a Nokia blood pressure machine, then you can actually automatically transport that into My Diabetes Home. Again, that information is available on the website, or you could reach out to us. But again, as much you can automate, the better. There's the DASH diet. I'm a huge fan of a DASH diet, which can cause substantial reduction in blood pressure, like 1 or even 2 medications, so as to say. The whole idea is you reduce fat, cholesterol, added sugars, and sugary beverages. What you want to take is more fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, fish, and lean protein. So DASH diet is definitely available. Just search for it. It's a great way to reduce blood pressure. Absolutely remarkable effect on blood pressure. Again, you can track your blood pressure, and you see how this is color coded. The things in Target are green, and then yellow and red, depending on how high they are. It's very helpful. If you go to a doctor's office and your blood pressure is high because of the white coat syndrome, the doctor would want to change your blood pressure medication, add another one. But if he saw that your home readings are much better, he's going to say, fine, I'm not going to do it. So again, you're your own best advocate. I would say get a blood pressure machine if you have hypertension, and then check maybe once or twice a week. C, cholesterol. In the newer guidelines, they have changed to this idea that the number doesn't matter, and based on your risk, you can go on moderate or high intensity statin therapy. All patients with diabetes should be on a statin. They're already moderate risk. Then either it's a moderate or high intensity statin based on whether they have other issues or not. I personally believe that numbers still matter. Otherwise, how would you know that the medication is working? LDL goal less than 100, but if you have multiple risk factors, then less than 70. Remember, LDL is the bad cholesterol, the lousy cholesterol. The lower it is, the better. HDL is the happy cholesterol. The more you have, the better. It cleans up your arteries. More than 40 in men and more than 50 in women. Triglycerides, ideally less than 150, very hard to achieve. Should be checked at least every year. And again, you can see them in this graph. Again, this is so powerful. It can save you additional labs. A patient got her cholesterol done, and I said, hey, we usually do yours. Who did that? She got it done at her spouse's annual exam, and she put it inside My Diabetes Home. The end result, I didn't do it. She didn't have to donate blood that day. So again, think about all these benefits that you can accrue if you track your numbers. All the ABCs are neatly laid out in My Diabetes Home. A1C, blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight, easily trackable. So how do we get these numbers down? These ABCs. You can take a couple of medications for diabetes, for blood pressure, and then one for cholesterol. So you could do 5-6 medications. What are some of ways you can improve all 3 of them at once? Name a few things that will lead to reduction in all 3 of them. So in the interest of time, I will keep moving.
Bob says exercise.
All right, Bob says exercise, and we totally 100% agree. And that's the next slide. What you want to do is aerobic activity about 150 minutes per week, spread over at least 3 days. So walking, biking, jogging. And then you want strength training and stretching at least 2 days a week. So you want to be active most days of the week. I exercise almost every day, sometimes twice a day. Like today, I did early morning on my treadmill, and this evening I'll be attending Kung Fu with my 11-year-old boy. Of course, he does much more activity than I do in that one, but at least it's twice a day activity. So think about enjoyable activity 4 or more times a week. That's kind of a Dr. B thing, 4 or more times a week. Healthy diet, of course. So get a plan made for you with healthy meal components. Portion control is very, very important. And carb counting is another thing that's important for patients with diabetes. So these are some things you can consider for a healthy diet. Now, all these numbers, A1C, blood pressure, cholesterol, and of course, sugars and more. So if you feel overwhelmed, then I have been thinking of a solution, and this is where we brought in the diabetes score, one single score, in short, called DISCO. And that's what we built together for you. So one number that will track your health and determine your future risk for complications, for hospitalizations, for numbers of years you live and number of healthy years you live. All of that you will be able to predict with one single number, which is the DISCO. It takes the ABC in account, and it not only takes what the levels are, but how many you got done. It gets your glucose readings, weight readings, and the number of doctor visits, and the visit optimizer activity. So all of that is put together into one single score called DISCO. You'll have every month, you will get a score. The higher, the better. Scored out of 100. This person was doing better and then not doing as well in the last couple of months. And this is the lifetime DISCO. And the explanation, again, if you see that I tells you what that score is. And I sincerely believe that this will really predict how healthy you are going to be 5, 10, 15 years down the road. That's the diabetes score or DISCO. Any questions? Casey, any other questions?
Not right now.
All right. So I also wanted to preview some features with you all, what's coming soon. Numbers by themselves are numbers. So what kind of reinforcement can we put in? So we started gamification. If somebody has a higher A1C, we'll provide a message saying, hey, you can get back on track. You may have slipped up, but you can change. You are in charge of your future. So if somebody is doing in the yellow range, we can say, give some other messages. If somebody is doing well, then I show up and say, hey, congratulations, you're doing well. So we are going to institute that in the month of January. That's coming up. There's a lot of other features coming up. We are going to launch in Iowa a local community. It's very hard to find the resources for patients with diabetes. We are starting this in Iowa, but eventually we'll take it nationally based on perceived need and feedback from users. But if you can get the eye doctor and the foot doctor and all relevant people in one place so that you can build your team. Diabetes is a team game, absolutely a team game. So you need a strong team with A players. And our goal is to find those A players and put them here. So when you then click on support group, you can say, oh, I have a Knoxville Diabetes Center, or I have JDRF and so forth. So this will be launched in the next month or two. There's a lot of other features coming up. One of the things that's totally missing from our site, where we could use some help from you, is nutrition or food. So if we provided you some tools, how would you like the information about nutrition, calories, carbs, etc.? Would you like daily totals? Hey, I had 2,000 calories on Tuesday. Or would you want it by meals, breakfast, lunch, supper, or other, which you can describe in your comments? So take a moment. You have the freedom of determining the future of My Diabetes Home. And so your preference is what we want to use to guide our development.
Everyone is saying separated out by meal, the second option.
Thank you very much for that feedback. Couple of other questions for you. So what all do you want to see? So this is a select all that apply. You want to see calories, carbohydrates, proteins, fat, or any others that you can add in the comments. What is important to you?
So everyone wants to see carbs.
Yes.
And then calories and proteins are tied for second, and then fat.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that information. Other ideas come in, please do let us know. Last question, do you want to see individual food items in the nutrition module? Example, whatever you ate at breakfast or lunch. You have to think about, would you track it or not? Do you want to know about this or not?
So majority of the people, like 80%, are saying yes, they do want to see individual food items.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that information. I think we're getting closer towards the end. We had some submissions from the web. And again, you have any questions, please type them in as we are getting closer. So some of the questions that came up, we're not presenting all, just a couple of them. Question 1, I have a type 1 for 30 years. I'm super sensitive to insulin and struggle with the low feeling. Do you have any advice to lower my blood sugar without the lows? So type 1s are in general are very sensitive to insulin, but then means usually their total daily dose will be below 30 units. Um, but there are some who are above that. So now when you're above 30, I mean, below 30 or 20, it becomes hard to do carb counting. Couple of things that I want to say. First, if you are finding that you need to take 2 or 3 units with a meal, get a Novopen Junior or Humalog also has. It does it in half unit increments. So get a half unit increment pen. Very important. Second, go on a pump. Those calculations and maths are still imprecise. And if you're very sensitive, then going on a pump is important. Um, Lastly, maintain a consistency in the amount of carbs you eat. So those are 3 things I would suggest. Next question, how can I get my 12-year-old to have better control over her diabetes? Kids and diabetes, it's a tough challenge, very hard on the kid as well as parents. So I think providing them the support, know that it's a tough time. 12, 13 are very tough times. The rebellion, the usual other stuff, it's become such an issue. I think being a strong support for them, having them attend a camp, like in Iowa, we have the Camp Hurt-Koholo. There are many other camps out there. Have them attend a camp. When they see people like themselves and live a normal life with them for a week or two without the parents, no offense, but it does help. Those are a couple of suggestions for a 12-year-old. All right, I think we are getting to the end here. So let's summarize. Once again, thank you for joining today. One of the other things that I want to mention, we are going to start our online patient advisory group. Maybe that's after the key takeaways. Let me just go through key takeaways. So first, as you develop goals for this year, think smarter. And that will help you achieve your goals. And again, we can send this information to you. Of course, this webinar will be available on Facebook, so you can definitely reach out there. Whatever you track gets better. That's an absolute. So track whatever is important to you. Hopefully after today, you know what's important, ABC of diabetes. And if you track ABC, you'll prevent long-term complications. You really have the tools at My Diabetes Home to track. And as I said, if all ABCs and glucose are too complicated, let's just go. Let's just do one thing, diabetes score or disco. Please spread the word. If you like what you see here, please spread the word. If you have suggestions for improvement, absolutely, we want to hear those. Our next webinar is going to be February 21st. And physical activity, how do you remain active throughout the year? Let's make it fun. How can we have fun with exercise? How can it become part of your daily routine so you can go through the day without having your physical activity? So lots of fun stuff there that'll be coming up. Please join then. We are launching our Patient Advisory Council. So this is an invitation. You guys are interested in us or My Diabetes Home and in your health. So be part of the future of My Diabetes Home. Our Patient Advisory Council online is being launched. Tell us what you want to see. Get a preview of the new features before everyone else. Provide feedback on future features. Isn't that cool? And then receive some compensation for your time or a donation to a charity of your choice. So if you're interested in those, please definitely let us know. You can use the chat box. You can get through Facebook or email us at info@mydiabeteshome.com. We will be very happy to build a partnership with you where we know your pains and we solve those pains and help you manage your diabetes better. Thank you so much for joining. Let's change your diabetes together. Signing off today. Happy New Year once again.